Hi, I'm Gene Benson. Welcome to our Essential Vectors series. In this edition, we will discuss the big E. That, of course, is the in-flight emergency. We might ask the question, what is an emergency? Well, an emergency situation is one in which the safety of the aircraft or of persons on board or on the ground is endangered for any reason. Let's keep it simple. We need to detect that we have an emergency, decide what to do about it, and then do what we decided. We may or may not have time to repeat that if our first choice is not working. The detect step might be the most difficult. Optimism bias can produce denial, and valuable time can be lost. Here is what the air traffic controllers are taught in determining if an emergency exists. An emergency can be either a distress or an urgency condition as defined in the pilot controller glossary. A pilot who encounters a distress condition should declare an emergency by beginning the initial communication with the word Mayday, preferably repeated 3 times. For an urgency condition, the word pan should be used in the same manner. If the words Mayday or pan are not used and you're in doubt that a situation constitutes an emergency or potential emergency, handle it as though it were an emergency. Here are just a few examples of a situation that might be urgent, and then some examples of situations that might be considered to be an emergency. Once we have detected that there is a problem, we move to the second step, decide. We know that something is wrong. Fill in the blanks about what it might be. It's time to make a decision. We need just a brief detour here to quickly review decision making. The first kind of decision making is analytical decision making. It is when we have ample time to make a decision. This is not the case with an in-flight emergency. But many in-flight emergencies could be avoided if better analytical decision making was done prior to beginning the flight. We will see the other two kinds shortly. We are at altitude or close to the ground. Which is it? Well, it matters in determining our response. Let's look at close to the ground first. It is an indisputable fact. Urgent decision making. What is the optimum outcome? Live, minimize injury, minimize property damage. Urgent decision making is when an immediate course of action is required. Loss of engine power close to the ground would require an urgent decision. But even at altitude, flames suddenly appearing from under the panel would require an urgent decision too. Our training and experience will kick in to aid our urgent decision. Airline pilots spend lots of time in multi-million-dollar simulators practicing the unexpected and building an experienced background. In GA, we do not have the advantage of that, but we can take more dual instruction in handling in emergency situations. Even the less sophisticated simulators, such as the Redbirds or even PCATDs, can provide valuable training if used properly. There is no time to ponder, so our brains quickly search what they already know about the situation. Maybe we read an account of a pilot encountering a similar situation. Maybe we watched a video that addressed this. Maybe we took an online course that gave us some insight. Maybe we attended a live webinar or seminar. Now, what if we are at altitude? Something is wrong. Fill in the blanks about what that may be. It's time to make a decision again. Let's take a deeper look at rapid decision making. The key word here is rapid or rapidly. This defines a situation in which a decision is needed in seconds or in a very few minutes, perhaps. Should I declare an emergency? If you're asking the question, the answer most likely is yes. Declaring an emergency is the key to unlocking a treasure trove of resources. We can get vectors to the nearest airport. ATC can keep us clear of other traffic. Emergency services can be alerted. We can get all the weather information we need, and of course, much more. What's the downside of declaring an emergency? Oh, we're going to have a ton of paperwork. Nope, not really. Oh, the FAA will probably file a violation on us. No, not at all. We'll have higher insurance rates. Very unlikely there also. This is a before and after shot of the same Cessna Cardinal. VFR flight into IFR conditions resulted in spatial disorientation. 2 people died. Would have would declaring an emergency have prevented this? Oh, we don't know for sure, but it might have been a step in the right direction. Time for another decision. This one is probably urgent. Is this something that a checklist might be of assistance with? Well, if the answer is yes, then we pull out or pull up our checklists and go to work. Checklists come in many different formats, but we should always have a normal, abnormal, and emergency checklist specific to the airplane we are flying. We will work with ATC and advise them of what assistance we need. They will do everything possible to assist us, but remember, they can't fly that airplane for us. Is that something that we believe a checklist might help with? Of course, if the answer is no, then it's time for another decision. We must draw upon our training and knowledge and experience. Training is the key, and that goes double for proficiency training. Most GA flight simulators do a great job. Even desktop devices do a great job of training for procedures. Hand flying the airplane in most GA simulators ranges from reasonably good to useless. The last seconds of a landing are mainly lacking in this GA sims. Flying with a competent CFI is the best way to gain and maintain proficiency in landings. Publications, online courses, articles, videos can be very valuable. Be careful of some of the videos on YouTube. Nobody checks that for accuracy, and sometimes you can get some wrong ideas there. But for the most part, things are pretty good there. And of course, there are handbooks, but there's much more than this. Don't be offended here if I omitted your favorite. You've probably all heard the two-bucket theory. A pilot begins with a full bucket of luck and an empty bucket of experience. The trick is to fill the bucket of experience before emptying the bucket of luck. This may be way more true than we would like to think. Obviously, going out and flying adds to our experience every single time we do it. We may not realize it at the time, but everything we experience goes into our memory. The more diverse the flying, the more valuable experience we add. The pilot who only flies on perfect days and never ventures more than 50 miles from the home airport is building an experience base, although a limited one. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem happens when that pilot decides that this is the year to fly into AirVenture for the first time. The best way to learn to swim probably is not by jumping off a bridge into a river. Stretch that experience background a little bit at a time. Flying with other pilots can be a good way to do that. Of course, choose your pilots wisely. However, we decided, and now is the time to do what we decided. So let's summarize. If you're wondering if you should declare an emergency, the answer is probably yes. Many resources become available once an emergency has been declared, and we provided some suggestions on ways to improve decision-making in an emergency situation. I want to thank Avemco Insurance for their sponsorship of the Vectors for Safety project, which is part of my safety initiative. Please visit our website, vectorsforsafety.com. To get there fast, just pause the video and scan this code. Thanks for watching. I'm Gene Benson.